Hello, I'm John Wetmore, and welcome back to Training Block Check-In number 2. If you haven't seen the last one or don't know who I am, I'm a former college football offensive lineman who is trying to become a bodybuilder, and this series is a documentation of my journey. The purpose of this series is to track my progress, keep myself accountable, and hopefully teach people a thing or two about lifting, as I am preparing to graduate with a degree in exercise science here in a few months. And I want to share my knowledge in a way that isn't super textbooky and is rather practical advice that doesn't seem like random BS because the stuff I actually want to teach is the stuff I'm actively incorporating into my programs. Checking in on my longer term goals. In terms of weight loss, I am down 14.5 pounds from my starting weight. In this block, I went from 288.8 to 285.5, which puts me a little under a quarter of the way to my end goal of reaching 240 pounds. In terms of injury rehab, I'm starting to regain the ability to hold a decent amount of weight in my hand that I broke. Being able to get up to 225 pounds for 9 reps of close grip bench, which is a huge personal win for me. It's the first time I've gotten 225 pounds in my hands in a very, very long time. And just being able to hit that, or it just makes me happy. Within my short term goals, the ones I had laid out during my last video said I wanted to drop 4.8 pounds this block, which did not happen. I ended up only getting 3.8, which is still pretty good. I'm not too annoyed about it. How I look in the mirror is definitely a lot more important than hitting some number. And honestly, I'd be happier to hit a little bit less than a little bit more in this just because I want to maintain as much muscle as I possibly can. And typically, if you're dropping more than a pound a week, that's when a lot more muscle starts to come off with that rather than just fat. Also, an important note, the weight of 290, what's it, 285.5 that I had at the very end, that very easily could have been inflated a little bit just due to natural weight fluctuations. Most people will fluctuate anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds within a few days because within a week after the block was over and I weighed myself, I weighed in at 282 flat. So I definitely could have lost a lot more. I could have been well past the goal I had set. Um, yeah, and I was just sitting a little bit high that day when I measured. So yeah, I'm not really too mad about it. A little lesson for y'all is sometimes the scale can lie. Yeah. In terms of diet from this, I was focused on just eating a little bit under my maintenance calories. Obviously, if you eat too little, you're just going to start shedding weight too fast. I did not end up dropping a ton of weight really quickly, so I wasn't doing that. In terms of macros, the only one I really cared about was protein, trying to get at least 250 grams in a day. Before I show any progress pictures, important little note, as I'm sure most of you will notice, but the room I typically pose in got a drastic upgrade in the lighting department, so I think it does make me look better than I did before, even if there was no like physical changes to my body, even though I think there was. At least, I'd like to hope so. But the lighting definitely helps. It got much better. So I'm actually very happy with the progress I made during this block. I think I leaned out a lot. Yeah, I think I just look a lot better. I feel a lot better just day to day, being able to walk around. I feel lighter. My knees hurt a lot less. Everything just feels a little bit better. Yeah, so I'm very happy with what I've seen there. Yeah, in terms of muscular imbalances, my arms are now only an eighth of an inch apart, which is huge because they started off almost an inch apart. Um, yeah. My calves, however, I mean, they're starting to even out. Now they're only half an inch apart. They're not closing in as fastly as my arms are. One thing I attribute to the evening out of my arms was doing a lot of unilateral work. So, doing one side at a time, in which I would use my right arm, which is the smaller arm, first, as it would allow me to push that side a lot harder because when you're doing something unilateral, your nervous system will always be tired from doing one side, so you can't quite push yourself as hard when you do the other. So that makes them actually a very great tool for unilateral growth, sort of evening things out like that, which is why I keep those in there. I'll probably have them for at least one more block until they even out, or and after that, just keep them in my back pocket just in case more imbalances come in the future. Be able to hit them with that. But yeah, one thing I did, I only did that for my arm exercises, and but for my calves, I did not do that. Although that is something I will be changing going forward. One of the main lifting goals I had was to maximize intensity. I wanted to give everything I had for the last set of every exercise, or basically every exercise. There's a couple exceptions, which I will note later on. But yeah, in the wise words of Rich Piana, the more you put in, the more you're gonna get out. And the sciencey part of this is a training to or near failure. It's important because when you train like that, the muscle cells in your body actually have a reaction where that lifting causes damage, and the body goes, "Hey, let's make those muscles bigger so if they undergo stress like that again, it won't be that bad a damage." So, when repairing the damage caused to the muscles while lifting, they actually make them bigger and better. And as bodybuilders, it is our job to spite the human body's response by lifting heavier and forcing them to keep growing. The training split I followed was the same day to day as last time, with rest Sundays. I went push pull legs, cardio, upper lower. Then, just like last time, the majority of final sets for each exercise during weeks 2 to 4 were taken to failure, with a few exceptions I will touch on later. Those were mainly for things I just wasn't too worried about, like my traps, which are one of my very few strong points. So I don't need to train them as hard as other parts that are lacking. I figured it'd be better to save that energy for those things than waste it on the parts that are already strong. Also, like last time, I did have some random bouts of cardio sprinkled in, of anywhere from like a fifth of a mile walking to a mile. This time around, I'm going to be doing the same sort of grading style as last time, but focus more on what I changed from last block to this block, and why I made the change, and did that change help. First training day of the week was push day, which started off with some close grip bench press for 4 sets of 6. Just like last time, these are an excellent exercise, especially with my hand. I've progressed them to the point where I can do a decent amount of weight on these, so I decided to lower the reps as compared to last block so I could push them a little bit heavier. These are still an amazing exercise for the triceps and chest. Easy A plus. These also got moved to being earlier in the week so I could train them with a bit of a higher intensity. Second exercise was a seated dumbbell Y raise for 4 sets of 8, which I am kind of surprised by these. I didn't think I would be as big of a fan of them as I was going into it, as they have the advantages of being very stable because it's a seated movement. These are a nice way to load the middle point of the stretch and the side delt, where most movements either have the most tension in the lengthened position or in the shortened position. These get in the middle. These get an A from me. Next was single arm katana extensions for 4 sets of 10. These quickly became a favorite way of training the triceps in a lengthened position for me. These allow for the triceps to be isolated very well, as most other exercises that put the triceps into a lengthened position also are really easy to let the shoulders take over. These are an excellent exercise and they get an A plus from me. Machine chest flies for 3 sets of 12 were next, and I'm a huge fan of these. They allow for the pecs to be as isolated as they can be, as for just about every chest movement out there that you do, the front delt will always find a way to be involved somehow. Just part of its thing is in any sort of arm adduction, the shoulder's going to be there. Yeah. These also get the benefit of stability because they are a seated exercise. Yeah, the pump you get from is insane. Love these. A plus. Lastly, to finish out push day was dumbbell skull crushers for 2 sets of 12. I prefer to do these in a rotating fashion, as you can see, to get all the heads of the tricep involved. Also, if you were around last time, you may remember I trashed on the Easy Bar Skull Crusher. And swapping dumbbells fixes just about every problem I have with them, as it allows for better isolation of the triceps and an increased range of motion, while not making your shoulder feel bad. These get an A plus from me. Pull days started off with a deficit pen lay row for 4 sets of 8. These are an amazing back builder. They will hit more or less every part of your back and maintain the advantage of being easier to brace, just like you get in a standard pen lay row. One of the big advantages of changing the height of where your hips are is that it changes the angle at which you are pulling, which stresses the different muscles in different amounts. In this case, it'll be the muscles in our back, which allows for some to get a break during this training block and allow others to take over more. This also helps out the joints, as changing the angle of stress is better for the joints and ligaments because tendons and ligaments take much longer to recover when we train in a specific motion for a very long time. We create damages the same way that's done in the muscles that leads to their growth. However, tendons and ligaments, they don't repair as quickly as muscles. So the way that we can rest them without having to take a long rest from training ourselves is to change up how we train, either by changing the exercises we do or the angles of our joints, the exercises that we do choose to do, which in this case it would be elevating my hips, therefore elevating my feet, making my back flatter to the ground, changing the angle at which I pull. Anyway, deficit pen lay rows are great. They get an A plus from me. Next up were Bayesian curls for 4 sets of 10. Everything I said about these during the last block video applies here. Still cannot recommend these enough. The stretch you feel is absolutely insane. The pump is fantastic. These once again get an A plus. Seated rows were next for 3 sets of 10. I'm a fan of the seated row. I pulled a little bit higher on these to get more mid-back emphasis as the pen lay rows, and later on the face pulls I did would get my lower and upper backs, so this was more to hit the middle part. These, I would say I'm a fan, but I wouldn't say I loved or hated them. They get a solid B plus from me, just because they did their job, but they didn't, nothing life changing. Speaking of face pulls, they were up for 3 sets of 10. Once again, these are terrific for the upper back. I dropped the reps a little bit as compared to last time, As the one gripe I do have with them, as you tend to hold on to that rope for a longer period of time, your hands can kind of get scrunched up. It gets uncomfortable and slip. So making the set shorter, knocking off a couple reps helped out with that. Once again, these get an A plus. Love these. Up next, were trap bar shrug for 3 sets of 10 to 12. This is an example of when I said I wasn't going to take everything to failure. This is one of the things I did not take to failure. Because my traps are already one part of my physique that I actually think is good, which, I think everything else is just a bit behind them. So, hey, we're gonna focus on just maintaining, and we're not gonna do anything crazy. Yeah, we're gonna spend that energy elsewhere. Yeah, but in terms of trap training, this is still one of my favorites. Yeah, they get an A. As a trap bar just removes grip completely as a factor. Stop the shoulders from aggressively rounding in either direction, and they're really easy to overload. Then to finish off pull day, I had dumbbell hammer curls for 2 sets of 12. These are a bit of a different sort of bicep variation exercise, as typically with most bicep exercises, they are purely training the biceps. However, this one, it's a bit more of your brachioradialis, which is right there involved, which helps build the forearms a lot as well. The one issue I have with these is once you start loading them heavy enough, grip strength can become a factor as your hand will slide along that dumbbell. It is tough to keep it in the middle. Although, granted, that's a pretty good problem to have if you're loading up heavy enough to where that becomes an issue. Yeah, I like these. They get an A. Up next is leg day. And the first exercise on leg day was hack squat for 4 sets of 7, which this is another exercise I moved ahead in the week so I could train them harder with more intensity. Hack squats are a very, very good exercise. However, they kind of suck to do. They absolutely cook your quads. Uh, except the one thing I have, one issue, they are insanely fatiguing. As when I was starting to reach late into a block, I felt like I needed 5 minutes to recover between sets, which is a lot. Granted, I think that might just be something that's the more advanced you get as a lifter, the more time you need to recover between sets. But 5 minutes to just feel okay enough to go again is just kind of insane to me. But I don't know, from the efficiency standpoint, it kind of sucks. But I kind of have all the time in the world right now, so it's not a deal breaker for me. They aren't a bad option for me, which is why they still get an A from me. Yeah, everything I said last time applies. The stability is really nice as compared to a back squat. Still love these. Next up are barbell RDLs for 3 sets of 6, which for me, I have the same problem as hack squats, as they are just so insanely fatiguing to do. Don't get me wrong, they are an excellent exercise to grow your glutes and your hamstrings. The amount of fatigue that these create within a workout, you get so tired once you're able to load these heavy. These just drain you so much, both physically and mentally. Having them both back to back probably wasn't that great of an idea, if I'm going to be honest. Yeah. Other than that, these absolutely rip. Love them. They get an A plus. They are still the best hamstring glute exercise in my opinion. Next up were seated calf raises for 3 sets of 12. With these, I up the reps while trying to keep the weights the same as I did last time. I found that I prefer the seated calf raise over a standing calf raise because of the stability issues I have with the standing calf raise, which I will get into later when we cover those. But seated calf raises rock, they get an A. And to round out leg day was single leg squats for 3 sets of 12. With these, I just increased the amount of reps, kept everything else the same. These continue to be an excellent way to work on single leg strength, size, and ankle flexion, as well as knee rehab. Sort of get them moving nice and controlled through that range of motion. These get an A. Cardio day was next, and for cardio, I admittedly did not do much that was interesting on cardio day. I typically just knocked out a 3 to 4 mile walk, followed by a 15-minute sauna session. Uh, I will fight tooth and nail that walking is the best form of cardio. Super easy and simple to do, not that physically demanding. I love myself a good walk. Upper day was next on the chopping block, starting out with close grip incline barbell bench for 4 sets of 6. Once again, I dropped the reps on these, up to the weights. Um, they are still impeccable for your triceps and upper chest. Give a great pump. Love these. A plus. Next up is my favorite change I made in this program. As like I said during my last training block video, my lat pull downs were not hitting the same. So this time around, I switched out my grip to an underhand grip. But not just any underhand grip, an underhand easy bar attachment grip. As typically, my grip struggles and slips off at the pinkies with a traditional straight bar underhand grip. So I figured, why not just use an attachment that naturally fits how my hands sit in that underhand grip, which is why I ended up choosing the Easy Bar attachment. Absolutely loved this variation. They get an A plus. Barbell milli press was next up for 3 sets of 8. And I have some mixed feelings on milli press, as on one hand, they're insanely good for developing the front delts, triceps, and all of the different stabilizing muscles that keep you upright. However, I cannot stop myself from cheating reps on these. I always let my back round during the end of sets for whatever reason. I just can't stop myself from doing it. A lot of times I'll accidentally get my legs involved and trying to turn it into a little bit of a push press. I don't know why I do this. I keep doing it. Completely shoot myself in the foot with these. These would be like an A tier exercise for most people, but unfortunately, I am not most people, and in fact, am an idiot. So these get a B plus. Blue raises for 3 sets of 8 were up next to round out shoulder work for the week. The change I made with these was lowering the reps, which definitely helped my ability to progressively overload these. As I talked about a bit last week, I said that was like a major issue. So dropping the reps by 4 helped me sort of push over that hump a little bit. Definitely recommend it for any sort of exercise that you may have where, hey, I can't progress the weight on these. I definitely recommend dialing back on the reps and then increasing the weight from there. That's something that's always helped for me. It'll help for other people. Yeah, these are still an amazing exercise for side delts, allowing for that training through the full range of motion. Still love these. They get an A plus. And to finish out the upper body day was a superset of cable preacher curls and single arm overhead dumbbell tricep extensions, both for 2 sets of 12. I'm a big fan of cable preacher curls, as they allow for the training of the bicep in a shortened position through a full range of motion still, which is tough to find, as typically training in the shortened position just about every muscle means that you're going to be losing out on some range of motion. Yeah, huge fan of the cable preacher curls. They get an A minus for me. Overhead dumbbell tricep extensions are another exercise that I really, really like, as they get the tricep into a stretch position and allow for them to be trained through a very big range of motion, which solves one of the problems I had with French press, which these replaced. I'm a big fan of these. They get an A. To end the week was lower body day, which started off with seated hamstring curls for 4 sets of 8. This again was an exercise, just like last time. I didn't take it till failure. This time I definitely pushed it a lot harder than I did last time, as this was meant as both a way to warm up the knees because there was a lot of volume in this leg day, as well as a way to train the hamstrings along with it. Still love these. They get an A plus. Next was a leg press for 4 sets of 7. As I leg press more, honestly, the more I enjoy it. They're becoming one of the more fun quad exercises to do, in my opinion. Again, I don't take these till failure. I prefer to get to the point where I think, could I squeeze out another one? Probably not. And then that's where I'd call it. Yeah, but these are really good for the quads. And the ability to progressively overload on leg press is seriously underappreciated. As most people, I mean, you and I both seen in the gym before, people just slap on 45 with 45, but the ability to throw on those smaller plates makes it actually a lot easier to progressively overload on it. And I don't think enough people do that. But yeah, I like these. They get an A. Dumbbell RDLs for 3 sets of 8 is up next. And I have beef with dumbbell RDLs. I think I have hit the point in my lifting career where they've just, they're redundant to do at this point because I can rep out the 120-pound dumbbells for 18 reps, which, I mean, that's just too much. Anything over 15 is kind of for hypertrophy, more into endurance training. Yeah, I don't think my gym's planning on getting bigger dumbbells, and I'm not going to try to stack dumbbells up like Jenga blocks to try to load it anywhere near as heavy as I need it to get. And I understand you at home may be saying, John, 99.99% of people will never have to deal with this issue. And you at home are correct. However, this video is about me and how they fit into my training specifically. Typically, for a normal person, dumbbell RDL is a good movement. It would get an A. But for me, they get a D because the ability to load them heavy enough is a genuine issue for me. Standing calf raises are next for 3 sets of 10. And last time around, I said that how I was setting up my footing may have been the issue as why these have fell off for me. And this may have been the problem, but I don't believe it was the entire problem as my feet kept slipping and I don't know why. And this issue only worsens the heavier I load these up. And I don't, the instability just kind of sucks, slightly ruining what is otherwise an amazing exercise. If anyone has any ideas, um, let me know. Drop a comment. Uh, I don't want to give up entirely on these. They get a B plus from me. They're still a great exercise, but I don't know. They're just missing that thing that helps me actually stand normally and not slip off of whatever I'm standing on. You need to reposition multiple times throughout a set. Next up were sissy squats for 3 sets of 10, which I enjoyed these a lot. These were great for training the quads. I particularly, with my old man body, feeling beat up all the time, I really enjoyed being able to train through that full range of motion. They provide a great quad pump. They require very little equipment. However, these only get a B plus from me because there is a bit of a learning curve with these. They are very tough to get the hang of, get the feel for. It honestly took me probably till the final couple sets on my second week before I actually felt like, oh, that's how these are supposed to feel. Yeah. And wrapping up the training block is with kettlebell tib raises, which I'm a huge fan of these, as tib raises are the number one thing that has helped me control my knee pain over the years, as I have dealt with a lot of patellar tendonitis, which the non knee end of that tendon attaches to the tibialis anterior, which is what this exercise trains. The kettlebell wrapped around the foot also feels a lot better than trying to do them body weight. Also, they're easier to progressively overload this way, given, I guess, depending on the weight selection of kettlebells you have. But yeah, these are great. A plus. Looking towards the future, the goal of my training will switch up for a little while, as I will be tackling a more strength focused block with a lot lower reps, most being 6 for all but a few of the accessory movements, and the main compounds being even less than that. This will also come alongside a diet break for me, where I will be eating more of the things I want to eat, and my only thing I'm really caring about diet wise is hitting 250 grams of protein a day. No restriction on any other macros or calorie counts. The only goal in here is just not to gain weight. If I maintain or lose a little bit, I'm happy. Yeah. I will also be bringing back deadlifts and back squats, which is something I have missed a little bit with the more bodybuilding style training I've been doing recently. I've kind of missed those compound movements. I think it'll be fun to get back to them again. The next block will also be a week longer than the first two. So the next check-in video will likely come out in around 5 weeks instead of the 4 week gap that hopefully this one got posted in. But in that extra little gap, I think somewhere along the way, I will try to make a shorter video for here on YouTube, breaking down a certain aspect of lifting that I think more people should know stuff about. It's probably going to be on either, I'm thinking, deloading, that's what I'm leaning towards, or variation of exercise selection. I haven't fully decided yet. If you out there have any ideas of something you might want to know more about, yeah, just leave a comment. I would be happy to make a video on it. This concludes monthly training block check-in number 2. If you made it this far, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, to help keep track of my lifting journey. In this video's description, there will be links to my other socials. TikTok and Instagram is where I post a lot of my short form content. I will also have a free Patreon page where I'm going to be uploading all of my lifting programs I use, just so that they're all easily available in the same place. Yeah, that's all I have for you lovely people today. Until next time, God bless.